Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. Curry, one-on-one. Irving puts it up. It's good. Kyrie Irving from downtown. The three, steps back, crossover, puts up a three. Rebound James. Second. It's over. It's over. Cleveland is a city of champions once again. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.
Cleveland, this is for you.
Good evening, Cavs fans. Welcome to another episode of The Block, The Shot, The Stop, presented by Blue Wire Media Network. I am Kevin Lynch. That is Tim Daniels coming to you shortly after the Cavs get another win, 134-124 over the Wizards tonight. Tim, we're going to talk about the game. There's a lot of Cavs news. We have not had an episode since the big trade yesterday with DeAndre Hunter. There's a lot of stuff going on around the league that maybe affects the Cavs. But I want to at least start as we always do with the game. Dealer's choice. Where do you want to start with the game tonight?
Man, there's a few places you can go. Obviously, the fact this game was probably a little too close for comfort till the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
was probably the first thing. And that's probably just a little bit of like the trade deadline after effect. You kind of heard John Michael and Brad Daugherty talk about like you could tell yesterday took a little bit of a toll on the team mentally with shipping out guys who they were really close with and really liked. And then fourth quarter Cavs, man, another 40-point quarter. So you guys had that take over. So obviously the pace of the game is something that's really fascinating, but the Cavs do what they do in usual fashion in the fourth quarter. I have to complain real quick though, because I took Jared Allen over 24.5 points and rebounds. Kev, if you can just go ahead and do your math real quick, you can see that he had 24.
The Cavs are tough playing those because, especially when you're going to do the big four, and it seems like, two or three of them have big games every night, and you always seem to pick the one that doesn't. Not you, but just any of us.
No, me too. So
fair enough. All right. So for the game tonight, as you kind of talked about a little bit, like sluggish first half, the Cavs were down 67-64, giving up. And I put a sky out until we come up with a better name for a blue sky comment. At halftime, like super tough game for the Cavs tonight, even against the Wizards, missing virtually their entire bench except for Ty Jerome. That said, shouldn't give up 67 points to the Wizards in this first half.
Right.
I would have more understood a cold shooting night with, so many regular rotation guys. And as you said, the kind of big change with the trade yesterday and everything, but did not think they should have given up 67 points to the Wizards in the first half, but luckily they turned it around. The other things I noted in the first half, which we'll get out of the way so we can talk about the second half, which was much better.
Yes.
A couple things. One, Evan Mobley had only taken 4 shots and scored either 5 or 6 points in the first half. And I was talking to somebody at halftime, like that's, and we've said it before, but that's Evan's next thing. He has to have be impactful on his off nights, if that makes sense. And what I mean is when the Cavs lost to Boston earlier this week, Jason Tatum by his standards had a bad game, but he still had 21 points. I think he had 10 rebounds. He had a little bit off shooting, but he still made an impact on the game on his off night. Evan has had some nights where his off night results in 6 points and 4 rebounds, right? And you barely even know he's on the court. So that is one of the next evolutions. Luckily tonight it was only for a half, because in the second half he was phenomenal. He ended up with 27 points and 7 rebounds. Was especially the third quarter, came out really aggressive, scored the first couple of buckets, got to the free throw line 6 times in the third quarter, and I think that was one of the differences in the game, because the other thing I noticed about the first half, I know I'm throwing a lot at you and you can choose where you go from here. The first half was one of those rely almost entirely on Garland and Mitchell for the offense.
Yeah, for sure.
I wrote down they took 23 of the 44 first half shots, 55% of the shots. And as great as they are, the Cavs are better off when they're taking 40% of the shots, but then playmaking for their teammates as well. And so all that said, all it turned around the second half, the scoring started balancing out. Garland and Mitchell only had 3 assists between them in the first half. I think they had like 7 in the second half. And yeah, really, really happy with the win tonight in a in a tough spot.
Yeah, so you mentioned the assists. Mitchell was leading the team in assists until halfway through the third quarter with 2.
Mm-hmm.
Not a very Cavs offensive night, which is funny to say because they shot the ball pretty well, like you said. It wasn't, I mean, it just kind of felt like defense was kind of a little sluggish, like you mentioned. But yeah, Mobley in the third quarter is really taking over. I do want to make sure I make real quick mention, I got to do my credit to the opposition for a quick moment. Give credit to the Wizards because they played really hard and played really hard for a long time in this game. And then the Cavs talent just kind of kicked in fourth quarter, which was, obviously awesome for us. I don't know. Maybe they just need to get rid of Kyle Kuzma. Maybe that's like how they got better.
There's no one that loves the day after trade deadline when everyone's shorthanded more than Jordan Poole. And he's like, wait, I'm going to play 40 minutes. I'm going to play 40 minutes and shoot the ball over 30 times. Like, let's go.
Yeah, he had they even said in the broadcast, like he had a career high 45, but it was not enough to beat the Cavs tonight. So,
yes. Hey, I'm poking fun, but like Jordan Poole is still inefficient at times, but has really turned his career around this year after it being really rough when he first got to Washington. He's shooting really good from 3, playmaking really well this year. Still not as efficient from 2-point range as you'd like him to be, but otherwise a much better year this year than last.
Yeah, absolutely. So on the Cavs side of things, you mentioned obviously the fact that they were really low on their bench, and I'm going to go ahead and say 2 names again that you and I specifically have talked about quite a bit that we've really enjoyed of late. And I know when you see Craig Porter Jr., you're going to be like, yeah, 2 points, 5 assists and 3 steals tonight. Mm-hmm. He was very physical, very active, and really kind of held things out. And then Jalen Tyson, again, Jalen Tyson is just that energy. He's just that like match. It's just like, he's like the flick of the lighter as being of a Lil Wayne song, right? Like that's the guy that you're like, all right, here we go. And again, tonight, 7, 5, and 3. Yeah. That's not going to jump off the bit like when you're going through the box score, but how hard he played, how physical he was to kind of take advantage of those guys that were out there. And then, and then I'm going to have to just make sure I laugh at this because I always do. You and I have talked about Emoni Bates in the past, and comes in garbage time. First time he touches the ball, man, throws it up there, baby. He's ready to go. He is ready to roll.
Yeah, no, it's true. And Jalen Tyson and Craig Porter Jr., while very, different positionally and everything, they're similar players they're similar players, at least in the way they can contribute to the Cavs this year. They're
right.
Both super athletic, super active, just make winning. Like you said, they had winning stat lines. They didn't have impressive stat lines, but they contributed in multiple different areas. They, they came in, they played better defense than frankly the Cavs starters were playing for a while.
It's true.
And just made a lot of like hustle plays, a lot of like heads up plays, and was again really happy with those guys tonight. I know they might be on the fringes, but I think especially with kind of doing the 2-for-1 trade that they did, I think these are both guys that could get, if not regular minutes, semi-regular minutes on this team.
I agree. Skylar and I talked about the other night. I don't know how Jalen Tyson's going to find a way into a playoff rotation, but he's going to make it hard to not play him. And I think that's the best thing you can ask from him in the current situation he's in. And that's certainly not a bad thing. I mean, he had 20 minutes tonight and he made his presence known. Literally, he only took 2 shots, but you didn't at any point question if he was on the court or not. And then Craig Porter Jr., like you mentioned, just kind of has this innate ability to just disrupt passing lanes. Tonight, obviously 3 steals speaks to that pretty well. They had 9 steals as a team tonight, by the way. That's pretty solid for a game when their defense wasn't really on par with how they've normally played throughout the year. But his just ability to, I'm trying to figure out the best way to say this in like basketball nerd terms, as I often do, but his ability to kind of disrupt the passing lane, turn it into offense, and throw the ball ahead is something that is like kind of like he just has that instinct, just has that like next level. The feel of the basketball game to him is so impressive. He's certainly not as talented as Garland or Mitchell or Jerome or Merrill even. But what he does bring this team with his basketball IQ and just his instincts is pretty impressive. So I obviously want to make sure he got his credit for what he did tonight.
For sure. And I actually think Jalen Tyson could be a key player these last 30 games of the regular season. How he doesn't get playoff minutes is if Okoro and Wade are both healthy, along with all the, Strus and now DeAndre Hunter. If all four of those guys are in your rotation, frankly, they're more ready to make playoff contributions than Jalen Tyson. So that's how he doesn't play. But that's far from a given. Both how this season's gone for Okoro and Wade, and all four of them, how, injuries have crept up on them in their career. And so yeah, I think but all that's to say, in the regular season, to make, contributions to continue to win, and to continue to keep minutes at a reasonable level for all these guys to keep them fresh for the playoffs. I think he could be a very key component these last 30 games.
Yeah, I certainly don't disagree. And the ups and downs of Max Strus kind of getting comfortable again has really kind of been going up. But tonight was a good night. Tonight was a really good night for him. 17 points, 5 of 9 from 3. I thought this was really the best night he's had this week, really, besides the crazy dunk he had in the Pistons game. But other than that, I mean, really, he was really, really good tonight for this team, and it was really physical, which we've seen Max have these really good shooting nights where it's kind of just been like him just like catch and shoot in the corner. But tonight he was really physical, really going after loose balls. I mean, he had the one play in the fourth quarter where he got the referee to reverse a decision on an out of bounds play. So seeing him kind of getting back to that next step, as far as like getting his legs underneath him, has been really, really nice to see. So I thought Strus was awesome. And I know we're leading into the Garland Mitchell conversation because those two guys really kind of carried the team tonight. Garland probably has the case for Eastern Conference Player of the Week again this week. So I don't know if he'll win it because of the Celtics game by any means, but he's in the conversation. But yeah, I mean, Strus tonight, really awesome. Really, really what the Cavs needed from him.
Yeah. Tonight was like one of those nights, and we alluded to it, but we'll just put out like only 6 guys that are in the regular rotation were in uniform tonight, between the trades, Sam Merrill being out for personal reasons, and then Okoro and Wade continuing to miss games being injured. They were down to like 6 guys that are on the regular rotation. If you don't count Jalen Tyson, which I wouldn't say he's in the regular rotation yet, he's kind of getting to that, but
fringe,
but still, they still managed to. Nobody played 35 minutes, and managed to, I wouldn't say get a comfortable win, but ultimately ended up being a double-digit win. And to your point, Garland and Mitchell were both very good tonight. In particular, just aggressive, trying to score the ball, probably not doing as much playmaking as we talked about, maybe because missing, some of the other guys that regularly play. But yeah, they both, I mean, Mitchell ended up with 33, Garland 23. They both, especially Mitchell, kind of kept them in the game the first half. And then Mobley, to his credit, Iffer is kind of unimpactful as he was in the first half. He was that impactful in the second half. He scored over 20 points in the second half. I think he ended up with 6 dunks tonight, just really started kind of controlling the paint on offense there in the second half.
Yeah, and a good Kenny Atkinson tonight too, man. I mean, for how short he was on guys to kind of make this game happen, he called that timeout pretty early in the first quarter, where he kind of just like tried to get the guys settled down after Washington went on that early run. And I thought this was a good night for him. I thought he really coached very well with what was given to him. So I want to make sure he gets his credit.
Yeah, no, for sure. And don't want to talk about any negatives, but I just want to shout out Skylar here. Tristan Thompson, less than 9 minutes played, -11 in plus minus. Like that's
not good, Bob.
It's kind of your goal should always be to not be more negative than the minutes you play. And unfortunately, Tristan just missed that benchmark tonight.
So, all right, fun exercise here. Say you see the box. Say you see a -11 in however many minutes played. Mm-hmm. You don't see the team the guy plays on. You would for sure thought that was a Wizards player tonight, right?
Yeah, I like maybe I would have thought that, or I would have thought it was a Cavs player that primarily played in the second quarter, because that was their worst quarter tonight by far.
Yeah.
So I would guess one of those two. Yeah, I mean, especially with the Cavs having won the game by 10.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So you mentioned Mitchell, just kind of keeping them in the game in the first half, and then Garland also just being really, really physical and aggressive, and just their way attacking the paint. I mean, don't be wrong, they both did shoot, over 7 threes. They were combined 9 of 19. You take that night, but just like for Mitchell, kind of having one of those superstar nights of my team needs me to kind of take this game over with how short we are on the bench, and he did just that. And Garland kind of being, I don't think Garland would like the term running mate, so I don't want to insult him by saying that because he was great tonight. But really kind of being there to help out and make things happen for this team. That's what they needed tonight. And especially coming off of, the bounce back from the Detroit game, the Boston game, like you said, obviously everything going on with the roster in general, with the turnover, really, really happy with what they got from those guys leading into the All-Star game. Wish all 3 guys were playing on the same team. I know we're going to get to that in a little bit, but beggars can't be choosers.
Yeah, for sure. And one more thing about the game tonight, I wanted to call out and kind of get your thoughts on. Sometimes basketball is an incredibly simple game. We have complicated it with so much different strategy, so many advanced stats. But I love the advanced stats, and I love to talk about like net rating and a lot of things. But like I also like to look at like some of the simpler ones that I think tell the story. So tonight, the Wizards were 54% in the first half on 50 shots. They were 54%. On the second half, they were 43%. So minus percent, and they took 6 less shots. So not only were they holding them to 11% less field goal percentage, they weren't letting them get as many shots. They stopped giving up as many offensive rebounds, things like that. So as simple as holding a team to a significantly worse field goal percentage and giving them less field goal attempts, to me, was the difference in the game tonight in the second half.
Yeah, and you got to look at too, who are the guys taking all those shots in the first half? I mean, like, all due respect to the Wizards, like I said the other day, they also have an NBA patch on their jersey.
Mm-hmm.
But other than Jordan Poole, like they're like Keontae George, Bilal Coulibaly, Bob Carrington, Anthony Gill is making plays for this team in stretches. Rashawn Holmes, it's like, okay, at some point you're like, let's just lock down the defense. Let's get more physical. And, we know who we are compared to these guys. And that, so certainly that's for sure. I think that's a great point you bring up.
Yeah. But all in all, really nice win tonight. Like you said, Wizards are an NBA team. It was a tough night. The night a lot of teams around the NBA are having a tough night being shorthanded with a trade deadline and guys not, passing physicals and getting all the paperwork done so that they're ineligible to play tonight. And to get a win is a win, especially on a night when you're shorthanded. So we take it, we move on, and the Cavs are now 6 games up on Boston with 3 to play until the All-Star break. I think 6 games is a very key number, and we'll talk about why down the road. But yeah. So, and before we preview Monday night's game against Minnesota and talk about the stretch of the All-Star break, I want to make sure we left some time to talk about the big news for the Cavs yesterday. The Cavs traded for DeAndre Hunter from the Atlanta Hawks. They gave up Georges Niang, Karis LeVert, and then a weird slew of picks. They basically gave up
Utah's picks. Yeah.
They gave up pick swaps on 2 first-round picks that already had pick swaps. So I don't really know. That might be the difference in them having the 22nd versus the 25th pick in a draft. And they gave up a bunch of second-round picks, which second-round picks, they're kind of lottery tickets. So it is what it is. But what we can talk about the trade from both perspectives, what the Cavs gave up and what they'll be missing in the guys are losing, and then obviously what they're gaining in DeAndre Hunter. Let's talk about what they're losing first, and then we'll talk about DeAndre Hunter. What are your thoughts on, Karis LeVert, Georges Niang, the impacts they had on this team this year, previous years, and what the Cavs could be missing out on with them not being on the team any longer?
Well, I first want to say, I think it's kind of crazy. You and I texted about this yesterday, but it's really fascinating to me that the fan base is like, there's a lot of people out there like, thank God Georges Niang's gone. Like, why?
Mm-hmm.
You always knew you could pencil him into play every night. And he was an awesome team player. He definitely had moments where he really contributed, especially to this year's team.
Mm-hmm.
Never missed a game as a Cav. So he always had that durability. So I think really he deserves more respect than I've seen from some people in the fan base. Not everyone in the fan base by any means, but I've certainly seen that. Karis LeVert, obviously a local Cleveland kid, so that was always cool. It's cool. It's always cool when you get to see those guys play at home for their hometown team. So he got to do that for a couple of years, and I don't know, man. You and I talked about this a lot through the year. For him, it was just like when he was feeling good, he looked really, really good. When his knee was kind of like not bothering him, he had some really nice moments and some really great games. So just kind of having those two guys as bench scorers who can, really have the ability to go off for 25 to 30 and like a random Wednesday night. Obviously, it hurts to lose that. Do I think they got better? Yes, in a vacuum. But they're two great dudes. They're two very easy to root for guys, great locker room guys, and I wish them all the best in Atlanta. I hope that they can kind of be successful there. I hate that they're not going to be part of this Cleveland team down the stretch, but you certainly understand why they made the move they made.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said. I think Karis, a lot because of injuries and a little bit because of like just kind of the, redundancy of talent at his position on this Cavs team, didn't get to have as good a year as maybe we were expecting from him this year. I think a lot of it's not his fault between the injuries and then just not getting as much opportunity as he did in the past. That said, great Cavalier for the time he was here. Really kind of adjusted his game to fit what the team needed. Like he went from a guy who shot primarily mid-range jumpers to this year, like I think I saw like 85% of his shots were either within 5 feet or behind the 3-point line, and like really adapted to the modern NBA and what Kenny Atkinson wanted to do. And thought it was kind of a shame. And you knew that he was, probably a guy that would go if they brought in somebody, just because they have other guys that can kind of fill in what he does. He's the expiring contract with enough money that you can bring in somebody like DeAndre Hunter. Yeah. So I thought we should be super appreciative of Karis and wish him well. And Georges Niang, like, as you said, we talked about, like, I don't know why a portion of the fan base kind of turned on him. My theory is because fans almost like don't like guys who don't have overwhelming athletic ability as much. It's like the same thing. Like if a guy whose fastball tops out at 88 gets shelled one game, they are harder on him than the guy who throws 96 or something. So
good analogy.
Yeah, but George, as you said, in the NBA and in everything in life, like availability is a skill, and he could not have been more available. Like he filled in for the Cavs. The Cavs have, behind Mobley and Allen, have a lot of lack of size. Everyone knows it, and he kind of played bigger than his position, and his size and athleticism shows. And really, I thought was a really key contributor. Top 2 or 3 guy off the bench this year for the Cavs, and I think they will miss him. They will miss him, but they do have guys that can cover up for him, especially if they hopefully get Wade Okoro back in the not too distant future. So, as you said, I have nothing bad to say about either of those guys. I understand why the Cavs made the move, but wish those guys nothing but the best and appreciate their time in Cleveland. So we'll turn around and we'll talk about DeAndre Hunter bringing into the Cavs. What were your thoughts about, trading for DeAndre Hunter and the impact he can make on the Cavs?
So the first thing that really jumped out to me was he's had a really great year shooting the ball. And so I think where, we all love Isaac, we all love, these guys who've kind of Dean Wade and those guys who, but DeAndre Hunter adding to the shooting ability of those two guys who are already really good shooters, on top of the, 3 other guys in the starting lineup who are really good shooters, is really exciting as far as the basketball concept of it. The size obviously is going to be a huge thing. So they've really struggled with having really probably since LeBron, as far as like having like a good size 3 that they can kind of rely on in big games. And this is a guy who's been in the playoffs. Obviously, his college pedigree as a former national champion of Virginia with Ty Jerome, as the Cavaliers. Make sure you keep that in mind. It's important stuff here. But just like the thing with him is just this ability to really kind of just fill up a scoreboard And when he is tapped in, which is not as often as it probably should be with his talents, can really be a good defender. If you go back and watch when the Hawks played the Celtics in the playoffs a couple years ago, he was the primary defender of Jason Tatum and held his own. Jason Tatum's hard to stop, obviously, but he, we kind of talked about Jalen Tice, like just making your presence felt in the game. DeAndre Hunter certainly did that against Jason Tatum in that series. He's, really dynamic scorer, a very physical defender. I think for what the Cavaliers need, he's a great fit, especially considering you have a couple years of on his contract still from the extension he signed with the Hawks. So I think it's a great fit. Like I said, I hate to lose the guys they lost. But this is like, we talked about Cam Johnson quite a bit. I think this was a better fit for them than Cam.
No, interesting. Yeah, I agree. And I think some of it's dictated by the market and who's available and who's willing to deal with you, right? So like, I have a lot of positive things to say about DeAndre Hunter. He wouldn't have been my top choice, both for skill set and for the contract he has, and we'll get into that. But you don't necessarily, you can't force teams to trade you other guys and take the return that you have to offer. And they were able to work something out with Atlanta. And my thoughts are, if they get the DeAndre Hunter from this season for the length of the contract, it's a very good trade.
Yeah. If
they get the DeAndre Hunter that he was for his first 5 years in the NBA, it's only an okay trade. And I'll explain that. Like he has career highs in pretty much everything offensively this year. He's up like over 4 points a game from his next highest season. His 3-point percentage is easily the best of his career. So if he continues all of that, for the next 2 to 3 seasons that he's signed up to be a Cav, then it's a very good trade. I worry a little bit about his contract. He's making more money than you would think. I'll ask you this, Tim. How many guys in the NBA are making $22 million or more and have started less than 5 games this year?
4.
1, and his name's DeAndre Hunter. So
it's because Quinn Snyder didn't like him. Come on,
you can say that. So, but $22 million, that's more than Jared Allen makes. That's a lot of money for a guy who theoretically is going to be your 5th best player at most. And so that's what, for the contract he has, they need him to be the 24-25 version of DeAndre Hunter. If he slips back to where he was, then frankly, he's going to be turned into an overpaid guy. And it doesn't have to be as good of offensive contributions as you talked about. He has been, frankly, not as good a defender as you would like him to. He has the athletic ability and the profile to be a fantastic defender, and he's been more of a little above average defender. And he also hasn't been much of a playmaker. Now, you can say he's played his whole career with Trae Young, and there's limited playmaking opportunities. I'm totally willing to hear that and see a whole new side of DeAndre Hunter be unlocked on this Cavs team. But that's kind of my feeling. I think it's a good trade. It improves the Cavs, but I just want to see. I want to see DeAndre Hunter this year not be an anomaly with him. This be the new version of him you're going to get for the length of this contract.
So I agree. I think there's probably a part of him that I don't think he necessarily disliked playing with Trae Young. I'm not trying to put anything out there by any stretch of the matter. There's probably a part of him that's excited he's going to get a few more shots in Cleveland with the way they move the ball. Mm-hmm. But I think for him too, you mentioned that he has the profile to be basically in Cleveland. He has the profile to be the guy he was at Virginia, who was the best all-around player in the country the year they won the national championship.
Yeah.
And I certainly think he can tap into that overall gameplay for sure here in Cleveland with the talent he has around him. So obviously the contract's a thing where you're taking a home run swing. Because at this point, with the extensions you've given all your core 4, this is your lineup. This is your roster. This is what you're going to be rolling with for a few years now. And so that's a little scary because you don't have the draft picks and things like that. But I think you're comfortable giving up all the draft picks you did for Donovan Mitchell. So for him, I feel like this is a really good situation where he gets like a nice start where he's going to play with, I mean, I know everyone's going to talk about, we always get yelled at for calling Trae Young a stat chaser, even though he always has a lot of assists, but I think he counts assists in his head, to be honest with you. He's not going to have that with Garland and Mobley and guys like that, and Mitchell. He has, and even Jared Allen has the ability to be a really good passer. So my offensive question for him, Kev, and I'm curious your thoughts here, is he going to be having, the ability to use multiple tools here? Like you said, his 3-point shooting is the best it's ever been. And that's with a defensive-minded coach, where he's coming to Cleveland with an offensive-minded coach. So that's going to be a really nice dynamic to see how that changes for him. But is he going to cut more in Cleveland than he did in Atlanta? I think he is. I think they're going to use him a lot more in that dynamic of attacking the paint.
Yeah, he could. He has every ability to do that. So I think that's my question. Like, how much is there more that we can that the Cavaliers can unlock with DeAndre Hunter? Because like, as far as just physical ability, he's incredible, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I would say, if anything, he's been a little bit, underwhelming compared to like what everyone thought his potential was. So maybe
myself included.
Yeah, maybe he gets into a new system and with the Cavs, which is a very like team-centric ball movement thing, and it just, he gets to play a little bit more open and freelancing style than he ever got to, standing in the corner while Trae Young had the ball. The other thing, maybe the biggest thing that worries me about this trade, is his contract matched with what has been his availability. The first 6 years of his career, he's missed roughly a little over a third of his potential games in the NBA. And I know Cavs fans have like turned on, Dean Wade and Okoro because of their availability. The two of them combined make $6 million less than DeAndre Hunter does.
Yeah.
And that's how those two guys can miss time, and the Cavs can, continue to play well because their contracts are reasonable enough that they have other guys on their bench that are high quality players and everything. You have a guy who's, your fifth best guy making $22 million a year, and he misses a third or more of the games. That could be tough. But this year he's been pretty healthy. I think he played 40 of 50 games for Atlanta. And if he can play 80% of the games, I would take that in a heartbeat. So yeah, I think, I would say my one word answer for this trade is I'm hopeful, or I'm optimistic, but I don't think it was an automatic home run.
I'm excited because if it goes well, it's going to go very, very well. If it goes well and he continues to bring everyone he did in Atlanta this year and a better offensive system, watch out.
Yeah. And he is the exact profile player the Cavs don't have and Cavs need, right?
Yes.
Well, he's not necessarily a 3-and-D guy. Like, he does have that size, that athleticism. He has the ability to be a very good defender against, skilled wings on the other teams. He has the ability to kind of, be impactful on both the offensive and defensive end. He's always been a little bit underwhelming as a rebounder for his size. And I would love to see that, kind of tick up now he's with the Cavs. So I think this is a trade the Cavs should have made. Like, don't get me wrong. The one reason I would have gone for Cam Johnson, or frankly, if I knew Caleb Martin was available and the Sixers to trade him, that's the guy I would have wanted the Sixers to zone in on, because I think he's 90% the player of DeAndre Hunter, making less than half as much. So, but all that said, from what was available and who was willing to deal with the Cavs, I think this is a trade they had to make.
Yeah. And, this has been the trade deadline of, that guy was available. So yeah. You're certainly right there.
Yeah.
All right. So to turn the tables on you, the report came out today from our old friend Shams Charania that the Cavaliers are meeting with a certain buyout candidate who also has an innate ability to not play basketball, but also has a lot of skills that people really like as far as a basketball player. One of them is obviously not shooting threes, as he has not taken a single one this year. But I couldn't think of I really messed up that segue. I apologize. But apparently, so the Nets and Ben Simmons are working on a buyout, and he is meeting with the Cavs, the Clippers, and I think the Rockets were the third team. So I'm going to ask you this just up front, total blunt. Do you want Ben Simmons?
No,
I don't either. I don't either.
I'll elaborate a little bit more. I think he can be a useful role player for teams. I don't think he's a fit for the Cavs.
Agreed.
And if they brought him in as a buyout guy, it's like really no risk, whatever. But like anyone the Cavs bring in, I think almost has to be very good defensively, a very good shooter, or both. And he is still pretty good defensively, not nearly as what he used to be. No one's ever called him a shooter. No. And you definitely can't play him with both Mobley and Allen at the same time. I don't know if you can even play him with Jared Allen. Like, I think he might be limited to only minutes that Jared Allen isn't on the court, which is only 12 to 15 minutes a game. So I don't think he's a fit. Plus, I think it's, I don't think it's going to be a real super bad thing. I just think it's something that, like, I don't see it benefiting the Cavs. If they're going to get a buyout guy, I would rather see if there's any, big men available that are a little bit better than Tristan Thompson they could bring in.
Yeah, I completely agree. So there are things to like about Ben Simmons still. He's not all NBA Ben Simmons anymore, obviously. But as far as a on-ball defender, awesome. As far as a facilitator, awesome. But issues, like we already mentioned, no spacing of the floor whatsoever. You cannot play him with your two bigs. Other thing, total ball stopper, complete ball stopper. And the Cavaliers are not a ball stopping team.
And he wants to play slow, and the Cavs are trying to play faster.
Right.
So I just don't think he's a fit for this roster, this roster construction, or the kind of system that the Cavs are running.
Yeah, completely. Go to the Clippers. Play their offense.
By all means.
Yeah, we don't need it here. Now, if they just sign him, I'm not going to be like pissed off and mad at the world. But
yeah,
I am going to be concerned that he's going to be out. He's going to not be able to play in a playoff series.
Yeah, and if they want to sign him and keep him as a just in case towards the end of the bench, playing 10, 12 minutes a game, I don't think it's going to hurt anything. I don't think he's going to have a super, positive impact either. With that, I know we're running long. Let's do just a quick preview. So there's 3 more games to the All-Star break. We'll just talk about the game Monday night against Minnesota. This is the only winning team that the Cavs still, out of the 3 games they have between the All-Star break. I mean, team with a winning record, I should say. Minnesota's starting to play better. Anthony Edwards has had a really good, last month or so. And this is kind of a key game because if they get this and then they finish against, is it Toronto and Washington again, or Toronto? Yeah. Then, you feel real good about them maintaining this kind of healthy lead between them and the Sonics. But so, as far as the game Monday night, Tim, what are your thoughts?
First off, you said the Sonics instead of the Celtics.
Oh, God.
So that's awesome. I love it. I wish it was the Sonics. # bring back the Sonics.
Yeah.
But it's a fun matchup, man. I really think that these two teams really complement each other as competitors so well. And like you mentioned, Edwards has played really well the past few weeks, and that's been really nice. They're kind of picking their offense up again. I like this Minnesota team. I don't think I'd really want to play them in the playoffs. No, do I think they're better than the teams ahead of them? No. But they certainly have the ability to be a team that could be extremely frustrating. So, like I said, they're on a 2-game win streak currently, but they've played really well of late. They're still 4th in the league at holding you to defense as far as opponent points per game at 108.2. They do play really slow, 26th in the league in pace. So, just like we talked about with the Ben Simmons thing, they will try to slow you down. But they're 29-23 right now, Kev.
Mm-hmm.
Basketball Reference has their expected win-loss actually at 32-20. So they've let some games get away from them. But at the end of the day, this goes back to what we said the last time. I mean, Rudy Gobert is going to have to guard one or both of Mobley and Allen. Julius Randle's going to get the other. Julius Randle's obviously the immense defensive liability of the two. And offensively, I really do think that, it's up to Edwards.
Not to cut you off, but I think Julius Randle's hurt and out for. Oh, he'll be out for Monday night, I believe.
Oh, so Naz Reid's gonna have to play a little
Yeah.
bit more. Okay, which he has not been the Naz Reid of last year by any means. So
Yeah. I actually think Minnesota is just personnel wise kind of a tough matchup for the Cavs. They have one of the better combination of guard defenders in the league in Ant and Jaden McDaniels.
Yep.
So very, very challenging for Garland and Mitchell to have, as high an offensive impact as they normally do. As you said, they can potentially, have some advantage inside. I also wonder who all the Cavs will have dressed on Monday. I know Sam Merrill's out for a personal reason. Hopefully that's just a 1-game absence. Everything's okay with Sam. You would figure DeAndre Hunter, everything will be settled. He'll be able to play. Have not gotten any update about Okoro lately. I think we all expect Dean Wade to be out through the All-Star break, and now it's kind of looking like Okoro will as well.
yeah.
So, be interested. I actually think Minnesota is the kind of matchup, the kind of really athletic team that DeAndre Hunter can help the Cavs with. So I'd love to see him be suited up and at least get some minutes and see him in a Cavs jersey for the first time Monday.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the injury report now. I hadn't had a chance to look at it. Man, Minnesota's beaten up. Randall, Dante DiVincenzo's still out. He might be back for Monday. It doesn't say for sure. So yeah, it's going to come down to who's healthier probably in this game.
Yeah, maybe. But hey, with that, we went long. Any final thoughts before we get out of here, Tim?
I just want to make sure we talk real quick about the All-Star draft because Garland. So the Cavs are going to be fully unrepresented in the All-Stars. Obviously, we knew about the 3 guys plus Kenny Atkinson. Kenny Smith drafted both Darius Garland and Evan Mobley to be on his team. Charles Barkley got Donovan Mitchell. So that was cool. And then Kev, our guys are going to be playing in the skills competitions on Saturday. Darius Garland's part of the 3-point shoot competition. I like his chances. And then Mobley and Allen are going to be part of the skills competition. So excited to see our guys get some love and be represented on the big stage.
It will, especially with the Cavs kind of being an up and coming team. Not that they weren't good these couple years, but they really burst on the scene this year.
Yeah,
it's great when they get nationally televised games or when they get teams, guys in the All-Star game get to be like front and center on a national stage. Like it's just a cool thing, and hopefully they all do well and Cavs fans, tune in and it's something all the Cavs Nation can take pride in.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how our guys do there. The jerseys look great this year, by the way. They really got them right. So
yeah. No, definitely looking forward to that. I mean, I think a lot of people probably agree that the skills competition's better than the actual game nowadays and everything. But yeah, no, we'll preview that a little bit in the last game or two before we actually do the All-Star break. But for that, thank you everybody for tuning in. Especially we went a little bit long tonight. And shout out, I had to take an unexpected work trip, and while my sister was here, and she took care of my daughter so I could watch the game tonight. So shout out Aunt Rebecca, really coming through so that I could be able to watch a game and do this podcast. And with that, thank all of you for tuning in. Thank Blue Wire for continuing to let's put this on. And I also want to make sure I shout out Singapore tonight. Because
shout out Singapore.
I sent this in the group chat that today was the first day ever our most listeners were from a country other than the United States. Apparently a huge group of people in Singapore all decided to check out our podcast for the first time today. And I just thought it was a very cool thing. So thank you all for checking it out. If you're listening to this episode, follow us on the socials, shoot us a comment. We're love to have you here as a part of the squad. So for Tim Daniel, I'm Kevin Lynch. Thank you for tuning in. And as always,
go Cavs.